We're coming at you live worldwide. We're here in the United States in America, in the New York area. Our very special guest, critically acclaimed Irish fiddler, extraordinary musician, Robert Zielinski, is joining us from Perth, Australia, where it's already 8 a.m. tomorrow. So my screen, it's today. His screen, it's tomorrow. So we got you coming and going, everybody. Jim Masters here. Welcome to the Jim Masters Show. And we're so excited to have everybody here live. We encourage you to comment during the show and welcome Robert. There's also going to be another guest, a critically acclaimed flute player, partner, and friend that's going to slide in a little bit later and is going to join Robert. Robert's also going to play for us as well. Robert, thank you so much for joining us here on the show. It's an honor and a pleasure, my friend.
You're welcome, Jim. And I'm surprised that you're not actually upside down, being that you're in America. And
well, that's debatable as far as things upside down in America, but that might be a whole other show.
That's true.
We'll have to do a whole other post-show, like after-show conversation on that one. But
True.
I know what you mean as far as, hey, people want to know, they want to know the things that are crucial in life. Does the water circulate counterclockwise or what? We hear so many mixed stories, Robert.
I've never actually tested it, but I believe that it does.
He'll do a test and he'll get back to us. This is something that I think is really amazing, my friend. You have loved the fiddle, the violin, string instruments for many, many years. And you grew up in the Perth Hills in Western Australia. As I mentioned, our very special guest is an illustrious guest. He's a very well-known and revered and respected musician in Australia. He's also spent time living in Ireland as well. He grew up in sort of the Midlands of Western Australia, and his very first fiddle experience, well, he heard of this first when he was 7 years old. And of course, which he'll share with us, he recalls being transfixed by its sound. And your Polish grandfather, because people may say, gee, he's an expert in the Irish fiddle and Irish music. How come his last name isn't O'Connor or Riley? Zielinski? But his Polish grandfather played the violin and recognized Rob's musicality and then bought him his very first small violin. Tell us about your exposure early on to that beautiful instrument, Rob.
Yeah, I first, well, actually, my uncles are guitarists, just diverting a small bit. And I was always asking my elder sister to put on records. I love music. And so they got me a small guitar. And I just didn't warm to it at all. And I actually wanted to use it as a raft to get over to an island, believe it or not, at the bottom of where we lived. And so that was the end of the guitar episode. And then I heard the violin when I was around 7. And of course, I started nagging my parents for a violin. But after the guitar episode, they weren't too keen on buying another instrument. So it was my granddad who he played, and his dad played back in Poland. And he brought me up a small violin and showed me how to hold it. And my next door neighbour was a man called Eddie Lowe, who was a traditional Irish fiddle player, Australian traditional Irish fiddle player, and his wife played the concertina. So I used to go over there once a week and learn tunes from him. And then he brought me to a folk festival called 2J Folk Festival, where I met Sean Doherty, Aidan Cruz, and quite a few of the older generation Irish players in Perth. So they more or less adopted me. And I, that's how my entry into the Irish.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Very lucky.
You went on to learn traditional Irish music by ear from your neighbor Eddie Lowe, and then also this great relationship with Sean Doherty, and then Sean really sort of welcomed you into the Perth
Yeah,
Irish community and then
yeah,
introduced you to Mick Doherty when you were 12. And that,
that's right. Yeah, yeah. Well, that was changed my life. Hearing Mick play for the first time when I was 12, because he had this. You could say it was like a sing-song way of playing, where the tone was more than just playing, and he had an amazing command, very very sweet, and he was also great fun as well. And so we kind of myself and Mick really clicked, and he said to come down to his place down in Rockingham. He said, you're not a bad fiddle player, but you have a rubbish fiddle. And he lined up um, 6 or 7 instruments, and he said, "Now, I want you to pick one of those." So he said, "Well, good on you. You picked the best one." And then he said, "How much money do you have?" And I said, "I've got $80, $80." And he said, "Good man." He said, "So when you get to 200, it's yours." So, so that was great. I used to ride my bike some like 40 kilometers down there and stay the whole weekend, ride back. That was the draw that Mick had on me. I was at Sean's every Friday night. I'd often stay over quite often then. We had Kayleys. There was a man called Ray Dealey, who's a wonderful flute player from Lochray. He was a neighbour of Paddy Fahey. I used to go down to his house, and often, sometimes you'd go there on the Friday and you couldn't get out of there until Monday morning when you had to go to work. So it was very lucky. And when I was 17, I went to Ireland on Sean's advice, actually. Yeah.
and what was that like to go to Ireland? I mean, being somebody who was a real appreciator of Irish music, you must have felt almost at home there too.
Yeah, it was strange because honestly, when I was 17, it was like I was in another suburb of Perth, because I grew up with Irish people, so it wasn't very unusual for me to be in Ireland at the time.
Right.
And playing Irish music, the older generation, they see someone with fiddle case and a young fellow with a fiddle case, and they can play the tunes, and they were great to me. They look after you and say, "Oh, where are you going, Rob?" I'm thinking of going here. And they say, "No, don't go there. Come here with us." And then you end up staying with them for, like in Sligo, I stayed with Declan Folan's parents for 6 weeks and helped out on the farm. And I met Andrew Davey, the great Sligo fiddle player who became my mentor in Ireland for about 10 years. And in East Clare, I landed in Feakle, and where that's the town where Martin Hayes comes from. I met his dad, PJ Hayes, and all of those guys, and I got a job building an old farmhouse, and I stayed in Feakle for almost a year and a half, actually, early on. So, yeah, it wasn't something that I set out to do. I just kind of, it just ended up like that, and it wasn't unusual for me to end up in Ireland. But what was great about being in Ireland was that that older generation, the Bobby Caseys, the Junior Creans, and PJ Hayes, they were still there, and I got to meet them as friends and play a lot with them. And that was, now at the time it was like, it was normal, but now I realize how special that was to have, to know these people, and not just their music, but also who they were, their characters, and great people. And
Oh, absolutely.
music is just one part of who they were. Same with Mick and Sean. And
great storytellers, great joke tellers, lots of Irish crack, always a good time, right?
Yeah,
That's what it's all about with the culture and the music. And there's a love affair, that America and Canada has with everything Irish, with all the Irish artists that have come here and have been on television and on stages. And same thing with Australia. There's a wonderful connection to Ireland with Australian artists as well, which I think is amazing. When you were in Ireland, so you lived on the west coast of Ireland for some 14 years or so, and you really described that time as a world of music, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I didn't. There wasn't much else that was in my head other than music during that time. I just thought I played for any chance that I got. I was at festivals and sessions. It just, my whole world was about playing fiddle, really. And that was great. But I was also making violins at the time. And what I did is I was learning with a couple of French violin makers down in Cork.
Which I think is really incredible. And you've done that, right? In addition to being a talented and critically acclaimed musician, fiddle player, and more, you have made the instruments as well, right? That's a whole other craft.
Yeah, that I don't really. The two are all two of the same for me, making or playing. I mean, really, I got into the making through Mick as well, because he was buying and selling fiddles and we were always trying to get them to sound good. So, I mean, I took my violin apart when I was a kid, which was a disaster, but that's another story, and put it back together several times trying to get it to sound better. But really,
you could have been a biologist, taking it apart and dissecting it. And how does this thing work?
Yeah. So I'm very interested in how the actual violin itself works, because I'm really into tone and sound, and then so I guess violin making was a way to explore my own sound. And by seeing a lot of other instruments, you slowly build up some pattern recognition or experience. And I mean, I don't know how many times I've set up my own violin. I'm always constantly experimenting with it. This is it here, actually. So that's the violin on the album. So I made,
Tell us about
this
that
one
beauty. Tell us about it.
This is what we call a long pattern. It's inspired by a long pattern Stradivarius. So because I'm a big tall fellow, I've got long arms. When you swing your arm up, what you want is the violin to fit into your frame like that. So you can imagine if I put my arm up and then I pull it in like that, all that tension that's being created all around there. And then when you put the bow on the string, it should just land on what we call the sounding point. And then you have this very flexible, like where it just fits in. So I had a smaller Italian violin before this one, which I loved, but this being to size really it was a revolution for me, in that the comfort that I have playing on this instrument that I made in Torbay, actually, in 2018.
That's really amazing. I want to let the audience know, welcoming everybody. We are coming to you live from America, where I am, and Australia, where Robert is. And we welcome everybody who's watching here in America and Canada and Australia, and everybody who's watching around the world, our international audience. Robert is also going to play a few things live for us as well a little bit later in the show. But we have this little video clip, and we want to play a little snippet from this. And it's a little bit of Robert really telling his story even more, which I think we sort of stumbled on this. And I said, this would be so cool in his own words to tell us about his love of music and love of the instrument and so much more. It's a real portrait that was done on him. We'll play a little of this, then we'll have Robert back. Don't forget, gang, you can comment in the comment section. Let us know how much you're enjoying our show here with our very special guest, Robert Zielinski, and Van Weller's going to be joining us in just a second. Take a look at a little of this, and this will fill in the blanks for you, and then we will be back live from America and Australia on the Jim Masters Show.
When I first heard the fiddle, I had to play it. The fiddle is not a toy. It's the closest instrument to the human voice, and it gives the musician everything they need. Its genius is the combination of the bowed string and the resonating chamber. And this design was perfected and has basically remained unchanged since the 1530s. I was lucky enough to be taken into the Irish community in Perth, and they were very, very good to me. Sean Doherty took me under his wing. But he was very keen for me to meet a man called Mick Doherty, who lived down in Rockingham. I finally met Mick when I was 12, and it changed my life. Mick Doherty was the last remaining member of a family of travelling fiddle players, storytellers and tinsmiths from Donegal. His uncles Johnny and Mickey were iconic figures. RTE made documentaries on John, and many recordings were made of them. His family have been travelling the roads for over 300 years. He was very determined to teach me what he had, and he introduced me to fixing fiddles, which later led me to work with 3 different makers in Ireland: Hugo Vector, Bertrand Gillen and Jeremy Legrand. And I draw no distinction between playing and making. For me, they're the same thing. And I'm sure I learnt this from Mick. Whether you're playing or making, your sound is your sound, and you set out to create it. When I came back from Ireland, we were able to play more together, and having spent so much time over there, I had a much greater appreciation of who and what Mick was. In 2012, with the help of Kevin Bradley and the National Library of Australia, we released our CD Out West at Fairbridge Festival. And Mick was 88 at the time. And we were expecting around 30 or 40 of our mates, but there were over 300 people in the room. It was really great just to see an older musician like this get this kind of recognition and respect. He was always joking about how ridiculous it was that he had lived for over 90 years. I was chatting and playing tunes with Mick only a week before he died. I remember getting the call from Mick's son Lee, and I just didn't know what to do. My legs wouldn't move, and it was as if I couldn't see. For the first time in my life, I didn't have a mentor, a father figure, and someone that knew me better than anyone for over 25 years. It's true what they say, losing someone that close to you wakes you up. And we always forget we are not here for very long at all. I played at Mick's burial, and I felt that everyone, past and present, was there. I feel very fortunate to have music at the centre of my life, and I think music is the most honest language. Of course, I can't talk or visit Mick anymore, but he's always around. I'll never have the same tradition that Mick had, but I'll do whatever I can to keep his music alive.
That was very touching, very moving, and they did the producer, we wanted to show that credit at the end, did such a beautiful job on that. Tell us about that. That was a wonderful portrait, Rob.
Yeah, wow, that really, I haven't seen that in a long time. That really brings back a flood of memories. That was John Reed that took the initiative to make that little doco, and when he first asked me, I was quite reluctant, but then we became very good friends, and obviously I trusted him, and he's so he put all that together through old footage, and I had no idea where he found it all, but he did an amazing job on that, and it's great to see Mick actually playing there. Like you can see even that little clip of when we're launching the Out West album, and you see the bow hand on him. It's every time I see it, even though I know obviously it's been playing with him for 25 years, it still amazes me the command he has. Where he just I've seen him playing and laughing at the same time. And when I was a kid, I saw him having a conversation with this guy who was playing the banjo and playing fiddle at the same time. That's the kind of freedom that he had on the fiddle. He could leave the fiddle alone for 4 months, for whatever reason, pull it out, dust it off, and obviously you've got to wake it up. But within half an hour, he was off. It wasn't him; it was the instrument needed to be woken up.
Exactly.
It just was. That whole family were like that. They were renowned they just were full of music. Johnny Doherty, his uncle, his father, Hughie Doherty, who wasn't recorded because he died quite young when he was around 40. Mick's grandfather was a guy called Mickey Moore. There was Simon Doherty, Simon. There was a whole Mickey Doherty. He was recorded a lot. So Mick, if you can imagine him growing up, I mean, one story that Mick told me, which is I think is amazing, is that Mick's grandfather recognised in Mick the music that he had, and Mick told me he was trying to catch a trout down in the stream, and his grandfather Mickey Moore called him up to the house, and he sat in between his knees, and he kind of held him between his knees and played the fiddle with the young Mick sitting between his knees for a couple of hours. And Mick was like, he just wanted me to hear the tunes. And so when Mick was 8 years old, Mickey Moore passed away, and they got the call. This is another story, but Mick's dad got the call, and they walked for about 8 miles to get to where Mickey Moore, he was still alive, and he wanted to see them, obviously, and he was in an old settle bed by the fire. They used to have a settle bed in the cottages, and he asked to be propped up with a few cushions, and they had a tin fiddle in the house because it was the only fiddle they had. And they propped him up, and he played a tune called The Wheels of the World, and Mick remembers that version. So Mick can remember, especially as he got older, his earliest memories came back. So he could remember very vividly and tell you how Mickey Moore played, and then he would demonstrate that to you, and he would say, "But this is how my father might bow this tune," or "This is how Johnny was." Quite colourful ways of describing how they played, a lot through nature, like he was, so his father was like as sweet as a flock of birds, he'd say, that kind of language.
A real a deep inspiration for you. And some of our viewers have been saying hello. We've been sprinkling a couple of their comments in from all around the world. We thank those who are watching live right now. I'm in America. He's in Australia. You also, you've had an opportunity to release other material too. We're going to talk about the latest music, I know, which is very exciting. You also have this.
Yeah, so the Day Dawn is a compilation of I haven't actually done much recording until recently, the last few years, and this is a compilation of 25 years of recordings that go back to, say, the first one was when I was 23 and living in Kerry, and there's like a track on there with Paddy Jones, the sleeve looker fiddle player, who was a friend of mine. There's some great tracks of Mick and me in his shed. So they're like field recordings, and right up to the present, right up to last year. And I kind of released this with the help of Manuela. She was like, "You've got to release this, Rob." She will introduce it later, obviously, but she was like, "You have to do this." So she helped a lot with the sleeve notes, and we put it together, and that was released in January this year, and
right, 25 years worth of material. Yeah. That's amazing. That really is. Is that available on, Amazon and everywhere where people can get music, Spotify, iTunes, all those places?
It's available on the website as a download and a physical copy.
On your website?
Yeah. On the robertzielinskimusic.com. Yep. And we're going to put that particular album up on streaming platforms soon, because we realize, people around the world, it's hard with postage and costs and all this. So that one will be freely available, and we're going to do that pretty soon. So.
That's fantastic. Do you love, some people love being in the studio. Some people love performing on stage amongst the people. You've done it all and continue to do it all. And we've got some great shots of you doing it with everybody. Do you have a preference? Are you a guy who loves being in the studio, or do you like to be on stage amongst everybody, or do you just soak it all in and love it all, Robert?
Oh, I think I
Big
I
question,
love it all.
right?
Yeah, it's a big question. I love it all. I particularly enjoy sharing music on that live in the moment, where the audience is with you and you're not sure what's coming next, and it's you're everything, it's all on the line, and you're sharing music that moment with the audience, because they're part of that concert. Like, the concert's only as good as the quality of the audience, right?
Exactly.
But then I also enjoy being in the studio, and I enjoy the work. I enjoy working hard to try and bring the best out of that piece of music. I'll keep going until that music sort of for me comes alive or pops, and then I can, like, the melody is the king, and then we're there to bring out the best in that melody. So I'm a small bit relentless in the studio, all right, I would say. Mm-hmm. And then I enjoy playing on my own, which is very important as well. So I love going to traditional sessions. I love performing, and we've had this opportunity to play in larger venues recently, which is amazing, because then you get to play in these great acoustics, and you can explore all of that, which is a real a great privilege, actually, to explore the sound of these rooms and play with great musicians, and in a listening environment. But then I also love to play for dancers and house sessions, and it's very important to play on your own and as well, because that sort of grounds you back, and when you're playing in public all the time, it's a different thing, and you need to just go back to just you and the fiddle, and like, you can micro clean up little bits, or just reset, get your sound back and work on all the little tiny details that really make the thing good. It's that little 5% on the top that you can make more than the 95% underneath, if you like. So I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. No, it's really it's quite amazing. You have this deep love for all of it, which I think is terrific. You pulled up this shot too. This is cool.
So that's my violin on my workbench, actually. And if you look behind the light, there's Mick Doherty.
Yeah.
And next to Mick Doherty is Andy Davey, who's the Sligo man. And the other side behind the light, you can't really see him, is PJ Hayes. So I'm just looking at that. I just realised that now.
And is the flute there as well next to the violin?
There's a flute there.
Is that Manuela's?
That belongs to Manuela, yeah.
That's Manuela's as well. And Manuela's going to join us in just a second. We've been showing some really, and this is a beautiful shot of your baby.
So that's my old violin that I used to play. It's a very beautiful violin, and I played that for many, many years. And
you've also traveled. I mentioned too. You've traveled around the world internationally, and tell us about some of the places that you've been to and places that you'd love to go to around the world to perform as well, Robert.
Well, we have this idea. We'd love to go to Japan and perform in Japan, because the album that the Kiangada up is really inspired by nature, and we think the Japanese people like brush painting, and they have this connection to nature. And we'd also, I've been to the States, I think 3 times, been to Canada. But of course, we'd love to come to the States, of course, play there. And I'm happy to go anywhere really, and where there's some of the most interesting places.
Fiddle will travel.
It will travel, yeah. East Germany. Well, it wasn't East Germany, West Germany, but not in the early 90s was a very interesting place to travel in. We played in some castles, a medieval banquet once, where they had all these big long tables and a moose. They were cooking a moose.
Wow.
And they had these jugs of beer and all the
tables. Did you try any of the moose, or did you pass on that and just go straight to the beer?
I did.
You did, huh?
Yeah.
I never had moose. I've had bison. When I was on a TV shoot in Greece, they had skewers we were at the top of a mountain in Samothraki, this island off of the main part of Greece, almost in between Greece and Turkey. And I was on a television project hosting this travel TV series. And there was lots of goats running around. And then all of a sudden there was a skewer that had that meat on it. And they said, this is, try it. And we did. And I don't know about moose, but the goat tasted a little bit like chicken. What was the moose like?
I seem to remember it tasted like venison, which I guess a moose is a giant reindeer. Are you looking to Manuela for help on that one? Well, they had jugs. I remember they had jugs of beer, and all the tables were banging the jugs of beer in what they thought was in time with the music. So you had this cacophony of beer jugs going, and I remember having to put the head down this close to the fiddle just to tell where I was, to
where you were.
Keep the rhythm.
They were keeping rhythm. They were keeping the time for you.
Yeah. They were helping out,
They were helping out. You mentioned the new song, and congratulations. Tell us first, we love to hear how you pronounce it, and then tell us what it is, because I know it is an original composition of yours for traditional Irish fiddle, wooden flute, cello, bouzouki, and it's really something that's inspired by the Torbay Inlet in Western Australia's remote Great Southern region. So this song has a lot of inspiration and a great story behind it. First, everybody's saying, they're looking at the screen, they're seeing that long word, and they're saying, how the heck do you pronounce that? So we'll have you do it. And then tell us about the inspiration for this fabulous song.
Sure. Well, you pronounce it phonetically, so it's Kian Ga Darup. Kian Ga Darup. That's the pronunciation. And the piece goes from, it's a whole day at the Torbay Inlet and the surrounding Carry Forest. So it goes from dawn to dusk. That's the day part of it. And dusk to dawn is set in the Carry Forest on a very still night. The day part is at the Torbay Inlet, where I lived in Torbay for 4 or 5 years, working as a violin maker and a musician, touring musician. And shortly after moving down there, I discovered the Torbay Inlet. And it was just like, I tell people it was like meeting an old friend. It's like I couldn't believe this place existed. So it had such a attraction to me. There was something there, this place. So I couldn't really stay away. And I used to go down there after working on the workbench almost every day. And for many, many months, there was a period where there wasn't much human interaction because I was working on instruments. So it's just you and the workbench and the instrument. And during this period, I had all this music going through my head, and I didn't really think much of it, because I guess that's quite normal for me. But what I did is I played a piece of this at a concert in Fremantle, the port of Fremantle, and people there just wanted to know all about it, and they made me think, oh, that's. And there was a pianist from Melbourne who was there, who I said, oh, there's a lot more of that and of that music. And she said, oh, you have to, record it. So that started this process of trying to record this piece. And that was, that night, someone said to me, Rob, you have to record that. Where would be the best place to record? And I just jokingly said, the Perth Concert Hall, because it is a great acoustic in the Southern Hemisphere. So they knew the manager of the Perth Concert Hall and rang them the next day. So I got to record the piece in the Perth Concert Hall, and I did it twice, would you believe? And it was great, but it didn't capture the actual. It didn't capture the inlet or the forest. It was magnificent acoustic, but it was too grand, and I wanted the listener to be really close to the piece, almost like they're playing it. And so I almost released the second recording, and it got right up to the line, and something in me was, I was just I was fighting this thing, and then the last minute I was like, I pulled out. I can't do it. I can't. So that I have to try and honour that initial inspiration of that place somehow, and share that with people.
It's amazing too that you sort of describe it in an incredible way, which makes it so visual as you're listening to the music, because the piece takes the listener on a journey from the awakening dawn through the heat of the day to dusk to a still night under the canopy of the giant trees and the stars. I mean, there's a lot of visual nature to this particular song, huh?
Yeah, it's a sound. It's a soundscape, or almost like a map, or if you like, of the inlet, or what's the word? A soundscape. It's describing that place from all through those different periods of the day. And so this is why it was quite hard to record, I think, in that when you're out in the bush, as we say in Australia, and in nature, it's very real. There's it's completely real. There's no opinion there, It's just, this is the way it is. And so then in
Australia, you have some very interesting things that are out in nature. A lot of them poisonous. Keep them there.
It's not as bad as they say.
And this and that, and
well, we don't have crocodiles in the top end, so that's good.
Right.
Yeah. So I tried recording it in a few churches and different halls, and then decided I've had this dream from many, many years to record outside without walls But of course, if you do that in a place, like if you record on an oval, the sound will be so dry, it'll just go boom and disappear with no reverb or anything. So you can't do that. So what I did is bought recording gear and a mobile battery pack and recording pack that the classical recording people bring into venues for field recordings, in churches. So it's very high quality, two microphones, a ribbon mic and a condenser mic. And I learnt how to use them, and then went out into the forests in West Cape Howe, and you have these amazing big carry trees that have like a smooth surface. So if you walk around, you can find a spot where you've got reverberation from these big trees. And you have to go out at night in less than 7 km/h winds for the microphones. And so that was one way I found to record outside. And the other way was to record right next to the inlet with the microphones facing out over the water. So it has to be deathly still.
Yeah.
And then you get a lot of the day tracks were recorded at the inlet using the surface of the water with the microphones facing out into the water. And the nighttime was recorded in the forest. And then for practical reasons, some of the pieces had to be re-recorded in the studio, in Lee Buddle's studio, with the bouzouki or and they say, yeah.
Wonderful. I heard so much of the bouzouki when we were in Greece. We were following a family that has a restaurant, and we were out on the boats as they were capturing what the catch of the day would be that they'd cook up at their restaurant, and there would be a feast of food. And then the father would take out the bouzouki and just start playing for us. And it was such a beautiful sound, the bouzouki.
Yeah. I love the bouzouki. And of course, the Irish went over to Johnny Moynihan, I think it was, brought back the first Greek bouzouki, and then they, some Irish players still play Greek bouzouki, but others, they converted it, put a flat back on it, and now it's, they've been absorbed into the Irish tradition as it's a beautiful accompanying instrument.
It really, really is.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that. And people can go to Robert Zielinski Music, make sure you have the word music in there.com to get it and everything else. You wanted to, we're going to have Manuela come on in just a second, but did you want to play something on that beautiful violin while you were there?
I can do.
They're all asking, the viewers are asking, and they're saying hello, and they're loving, they love the cover of that single, and beautiful stuff.
They're all Manuela's photographs, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What an eye, huh?
This
is sunset, right?
Yeah, that was taken at the Torbay Inlet, and the red in the sky was from the Tongan eruption. That there was lots of particles against the sun, and we just went down there, and she took that photograph.
Phenomenal silhouette, and a couple of people, I think they said it looks like almost like glass, like a mirror. Really beautiful. I love photography too, and I've been a photographer over the years, and when I saw that shot, it just said it all. Really, really beautiful. She's got a great eye.
She does.
Yeah. All right. So he's got the beautiful violin, the fiddle there. What would you like to play for us, Robert?
Well, I can play a short section of Donegal if you like.
Sure.
So
Very beautiful, my friend. You can never go wrong with that one. During the period, you spent a lot of time away from man-made sounds, right? Surrounded by the natural world. And part of that 6-year process recording outside, it was over the course of 18 months and the places that inspired the piece, right? So this was not only a labor of love, but also it took some time. You really took some time to make sure it was the way you wanted it to be, right?
I did, and I was determined to as I said earlier, like the only way I can describe it is honour that inspiration of the music that came from that place. So that really drove me to go to these lengths. And also, I mean, some of the most amazing experiences I've ever had were being in the forest at night, for instance, on your own, playing in the dark, which might scare a lot of people, but it's actually really, really, amazing.
He's here and lived to tell.
Yes, he is.
He's an explorer. He goes on expeditions trying to find the inspiration to bring you the music you fall in love with. That's what Robert does. He goes through the mud to the top of the mountain, down in the valley, swims across the rivers to get the vibe, and then transfers it to that beautiful fiddle, right? Pretty close to what you're doing.
Sounds good. I'll take it. Yeah.
He'll take it. That'll be part of the... And did you want to welcome the lovely Manuela in as well?
So Manuela,
did you want to also play something together, the two of you, or welcome Manuela?
Hello,
yeah, this is Manuela.
Hi.
Hi,
Manuela. Tell them about you.
Okay.
She had a great teacher in Italy on a classical silver flute, and I heard her in New Zealand first playing the silver flute.
Yeah.
But then she always wanted to play traditional Irish music for a long time. And in New Zealand, she found an Irish session and started in there with the silver flute. And there's a great friend of ours, Sean Manning, who said he was encouraging her to get a wooden flute.
And Greg White,
and Greg.
A great piper.
And how many years ago did you get the wooden flute?
I think 6 years. So the flute is the same age as the fiddle. It's been made in 2018 by actually a great maker, Chris Norman, Canadian maker. This is the flute.
Yeah,
so I'm really happy about the flute.
I actually saw this flute before I met Manuela because he was over touring in Perth, and Chris Norman was playing on this flute, and I didn't realise that this was going to Manuela in New Zealand. So
wow, that's amazing. Did you want to play something together to hear the violin and the
yes,
flute?
sure.
Beautiful instruments. Yeah. What are we going to do? Christmas time, we're going to do Jingle Bells or?
Bear with us. We'll just get some tune. We might play Mrs. E.M. Ross's.
Okay, some trad stuff.
Welcome to Killariti Cottage. It's
Very
a Donegal version of a Scottish tune that I learned from Mick, and then we might go into a reel, just for if people are listening, they might want to dance. So.
Absolutely, they're already tapping their toes in Canada and America and all around. Absolutely, take it away, Robert and Manuela.
Sure.
Bravo, bravo, bravo. The two of you have done this a few times before, haven't you? Manuela, what is it like playing with Robert? What is it like playing with him?
It's great. It was very interesting as when we started playing together, we found out we can be in sync, like without even thinking, and that was quite surprising. And it's not just us that realized it, that we kind of, when we play together, we're even, like, for example, for some traditional tunes, there are quite a lot of variations, and we just follow the same variations at the same time without even thinking. And that was actually quite surprising, I would say.
Absolutely. Now, have you always had an affinity for Irish music as well, Manuela?
Just interest, because I'm originally from Italy, and I don't have, and I didn't have any Irish people around me as a kid or when I was growing up. So, but I was always attracted by Irish and Scottish music. I'm no idea why. It's just like a personal, or I don't know, maybe in the past or in centuries ago, who knows. So I was always interested in this kind of music beside classical music, and but I thought, okay, I better start studying music properly. And I thought the only way to study music properly in Italy is studying classical. So I started with the flute with this great teacher that I studied with for many years, Massimo Pasi. And then after I went to uni, work, and then I moved to New Zealand. So from one end of the world to the other, and I went to the south of the South Island, Dunedin. That is there's a very strong Scottish tradition there, and even in the name of Dunedin comes from the old name of Edinburgh. So Dunedin, and then they kind of transformed it a little bit to Dunedin. And there I met a lot of really nice friends, with Irish friends, and also Kiwi, New Zealanders that played Scottish music. And then I started joining their groups, and went straight into Irish and Scottish music with them.
Have you had a chance to visit America and Canada as well, Manuela?
I just went once, in 2019. I went to Canada, and for a week, and actually I went to this a really lovely festival in Nova Scotia, in Lunenburg, Boxwood Festival, and a beautiful place, and just a lot of fun, and great music. And then I went to the States to visit a friend as well. But that was my only trip to the Americas, I would say. But more than happy to come and explore more and play more.
The Statue of Liberty is waiting for you to wave you in. You have a nice symbiotic relationship, the way you play off each other so beautifully, and Robert, it seems so naturally as well.
Yeah, well, that's just down through my my life playing with different people. Like with Mick, I could play very easily with Sean Doherty. In Ireland, there was Andrew Davey, and a great friend of mine, Martin Sullivan, who's a flute player, and he lives in Utarad in Galway. And when another friend heard me play, I was in Galway actually on this subject, he said, you have to meet Martin, Rob. You just have to meet him. And he lined it up, and we went into one of these old pubs, small little old pub, and this guy, he said, like, stop, everyone, I want to hear these two playing together. And we never played together before, and we started, and we could just play like that, and all the variations and everything, just fell into place. So when I first heard Manuela in New Zealand, she was playing the silver flute because you were playing in the Cayley Orchestra.
Yes, yeah.
And something I went, that's very, very I just noticed something, very amazing tone out of the silver flute. It was so sweet, like a great sound. It was almost like I was thinking it's made of wood, but it's not, because I'm used to the wooden flute. And then when we started playing together, it was just easy. So that takes all that load off when you're trying to perform. You can just shut your eyes and just go and try and bring that wild, a bit of wildness or freedom into it.
Absolutely.
Hopefully create something, excitement or whatever it is for the audience, obviously.
Yes. And as I said earlier, a beautiful eye too.
Thank you.
Really captured something special, Manuela. The single, the song, and all this material we're talking about, the studio part, was that in London?
No, that was in Lee Buddle's studio, who's been a producer probably the main producer in Perth. He's produced records for over 30 years. We took it to his studio, and he was the first guy that I presented these field recordings, bush recordings, to him, and I was a bit like, if it's not what you think I should do, Lee, that's. And so he put them on, and he was just like, no question, we're using these. These are great. So he was totally into it from the start. And he's lived down in Torbay many, many years ago down in
Indian Albany.
Yeah, in Prongerups. Yeah. And so he loves that place. So we worked with Lee for 2 years on getting all the other instruments. I was very tricky because these were very loosely played, freely played field recordings out in the bush, and then these guys had to play on top of that, and so they just put an enormous amount of work into. There is no music score because it's all like Rob is a traditional fiddle player, so there is no written music for it. So we actually I had to learn by ear all of the parts, and then probably scribbled down a few bits and pieces for the arrangements, and the same the other musician did, like Melinda Forsyth on cello and Jim Green on bouzouki. Yeah, Melinda's amazing. The cellist, she plays in the orchestra here. She's actually got a Guadagnini cello, which is just under a Stradivarius. It's just a gorgeous thing from
one of my favorite instruments. I love the sound of the cello. There's just something about. I interviewed a cellist from Juilliard, and I said to him, for some reason, whenever I hear the cello, it stops traffic for me. It's the warm, deep, melancholy sound of the cello. Whenever I hear it, it's like just completely, it grabs and pulls me in because I love that low, deep, melancholy sound of that instrument. And I said, kind of like with the fiddle and the violin, it reminds me if the human heart, the warm beat of the human heart, made the sound of an instrument, the cello for me would be that instrument because of the warmth and the depth and that sound. And he said, oh, that makes total sense. I said, it does? He said, yeah. He says, because, it is one of those instruments that is closest in sound to the human voice. And this is why you're humanizing it and why it's so powerful and overpowering for you. Does that make sense, guys?
Totally.
Yes.
Totally, yeah. The string instrument family is the closest to the human voice. Well, I mean the flute probably is.
Yeah, when the flute is the breathing. So it's the fact that you have to breathe into the instrument and then it makes the sound. So it's that close connection to the body as well.
Well, the classic combination of flute and fiddle in the tradition is the fiddle is a given because it's such a clear line, and so that you can hear that wherever, even if it's, and what the flute does is it pads the fiddle, so you've got this very clear line with all this, sound.
Sort of a cloud around.
Yeah, so the flute softens the fiddle, the edge of the fiddle, and the fiddle gives the flute that cut. So the two instruments should become one instrument. You should look at them like as if it's one instrument. And I believe that with any combination of instruments, actually. So, like I
think you just described yourselves too. through instruments and music, right?
We just keep.
Robert has a way with words, doesn't he, Manuela? He has a way with words.
He has. Yeah.
I don't know about that.
What are some other exciting things that you're looking forward to coming up that maybe you want to share as well, since we're all here together?
Well, you should talk about the show.
Because of course there is the album, and then there is the live show, and what we brought into the show is not just the 4 pieces playing the music from the entire Kiangardarak, the entire composition, but it is also a slideshow with all the photos, and usually they are mainly my photos of the inlet and the forests. The way is projected behind the musicians, behind us playing, and it goes loosely with the music and with the time of the day or the movement we are playing, and in accompanying this music that is played live and the slideshow of these photos from down south. There is also the recording of the bush sounds, so the sounds from the forest and the inlet, so the birds that were recorded by Rob in the Toba Inlet and in the forest. So that will give the listener the illusion or the idea. Hopefully, they feel that they are at the inlet and they are listening to the forest around them. They are seeing the landscapes and the animals as well, because there are some actually also photos of animals in there, and us playing the suite, playing the composition.
So you must be always inspired by what you see visually, things that you see around you in nature and in life can inspire a song, can inspire a melody for you guys, right?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I've never sat down to actually write a piece of music. It sort of comes out of any sort of event.
It just comes to you like you're a conduit of the energy that flows in and out of you. It's not something that you're strategically creating. It's an inspiration that's coming at you, and then you take it and make something of it, right? So that's what's cool about that, is it makes it real and unique and authentic.
Right. Well, I don't really know. I mean,
yeah. Well, I would say probably yes. It's I would say I can talk about the photos. For example, I don't really think much. I will just look at the place and it's like, oh, that's a nice angle, or I really like that light, and then I take a photo and I don't think anything about it. And then afterwards, when we in the selection project part of that, and then you realize, oh, that is actually, that photo is saying something. So what we are trying to do is not putting even too much importance, but what is the piece that is the piece of music is telling us, or that particular photo, that particular composition is kind of telling us, and that we think, oh, that's maybe it's worth make it public, and then everyone can enjoy it.
Yeah, and like your initial inspiration is one thing, but then after that comes that four-letter word of work.
Yes.
Where then you get, and then you really start working, and I love both of those.
Yes.
I love really working hard to try and get something. So they're two very separate things. Like Manuela was amazing in the process of making this album in the studio, because she's so relentless and it's not right,
focused
and methodical, and like in terms of it's project management, because it was so huge. And each Tay had very methodical notes, and we just went in, we started through list after list in the studio before we finally just, what we used to do is when we got bushwhacked, as they say out here, or confused, or we got lost, we would take the mix and go out into the bush and
camping in the forest,
and we put it on, and then when you'd have that separation, and you'd be really obvious what it needed straight away, and then you'd go back into the studio and do that, and layering in the bush sounds into the recording was required a lot of subtlety and just really deep listening, didn't it?
Yeah.
So much listening, hours. Yeah. We'd listen to the whole suite on one set of speakers, and then on another, and then on another. Some days we listened to the whole thing for 6 hours. And we were like, and then it just got to that point, and then it was like, boom, leave it there, done. That's it, got it, and then we sent. You were mentioning London, so I'd gone to London before I explored a lot of different mastering engineers, and I went to meet in London a guy called Andrew Walter, and he works in the Abbey Road studios, and he's a great acoustic engineer. He did the cello restoration of Rostropovich. Yeah, cello. And it was amazing. So I went to meet him, and that really clicked. So we sent the mix over to Andrew Walter, and he mastered it in London.
In Abbey Road Studios. Yeah.
And that kind of gave it that cinematic, I would say cinematic, 3-dimensional quality, where you can kind of reach into it and you feel like you're there. And he really, and I didn't want it overproduced. So they're really great guys. They know, but they don't overproduce. It depends what music, hey. But but for this, I wanted it really real and nice and raw. Yeah. And like you're there. So that takes really skillful
skill and an ear and a feeling. Exactly. Well,
Lee Butter was amazing.
Absolutely. Well, that's why I always say, like it comes naturally from me with my last name being Masters. I say there's nothing like being mastered. It makes all the difference in the world when you're mastered, right? It really does.
You should try it. You send yourself to Abbey Road.
Exactly. I was born already. I came out of the womb with a master's degree. I was already set up for that.
You're one step ahead of everyone. Yeah.
One step ahead. I already, all of us have, and my family got the master's degree. You mentioned, I love that. I've heard bushwhacked before. I love the Australian terms. We have, a landscaper that comes and takes care of weeds and stuff like that. We call it weed whacked. That's the weed whacker. I tell you. So you're obviously you're loving what you do, and you're making music, and you're inspiring people, and you're telling stories through the music. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And again, tying in nature and the love of beautiful Australia, which I think is fantastic. Congratulations on this and everything else that's coming your way. Again, you've been doing this a long time, Robert, and Manuela too, in the mix, which I think is so beautiful. And this is something that you guys just really, it's so heartfelt and heart-centric, which I think is what makes it really magical. And a matter of fact, in a little research I was doing, I think you guys were very excited when some shipments of material came your way, huh? Boom. There it is. We're excited.
I think it's all the copies of the CDs that arrived and the many boxes turned up, and it was like very yes, it was very
exciting day.
Very happy.
That was a big
all
day,
of the material, the music in there.
This
is a cool shot we came up with here too. Tell us about this shot.
So this is the four of us on the album. There's Jim Green and Melinda, and obviously us. And this is at Perkins Beach, just round the corner from the Torbay Inlet. Literally a few hundred meters. Yeah.
Very nice.
Sundown.
That's fantastic. There it is, folks. And there, of course, is the website to learn more, Robert, and all the music and everything else, past, present, and future. This really was a real treat, gang. And I know we were going to chat, I think, probably 45 minutes. But, when you have a good time with good people, and, we Irish do have stories to tell. You just lose track of time when you're having a good time, right? You lose track of time when you're having a good time. You guys are really amazing, super talented, very, very nice people. And I just congratulate you both for all of this great music, sharing it with us. And I encourage everybody to go to the website, learn, grab your copies, and celebrate all the music. And of course, the beauty. Now you know the story behind it all and why this music is made. And a lot of our viewers watching around the world are saying wonderful things. Thank you so much for being in what we call Levity Hall, which is love and levity together. So the Jim Masters Show is Levity Hall. And Manuela as well, and for saying the beautiful music too as well. I love that. And she's in Arizona, USA, Maureen, and Kathleen is in New York City. Thank you both for being here. Thanks for playing for us. You two are so talented. Good luck with all that you do. Thanks, gang, for all these great comments coming in here. This was really wonderful. Thanks for spending the time. You're welcome back on the Jim Masters Show. As I say, these are conversations, not interviews. Anytime you want, spread the word about our show to everybody in Australia and beyond. You can call up the Italy contingent, Manuela, as well.
Of course. And the New Zealand contingent.
Oh, New Zealand and Ireland. All of it. And when you go to Japan, let them know. And this will be archived on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV, as well, so people can see it. We're doing it live from America here and Australia there, but it'll be archived on our YouTube channel 24/7 as well. Thanks again, gang. You are really, really wonderful. Jane's watching in Sweden. She says, thanks for being here tonight. Please come back with more music. And thanks, Jim. Thank you, Jane in Sweden. This was really fantastic. Best of the holidays to you both. We'll keep, as I always say, the porch light on for you. So you're welcome back anytime. And I hope you enjoyed the time with me as much as I absolutely have with the two of you.
It's just absolute pleasure.
A pleasure,
Jim. And we really appreciate you having us on your show. We really do. We were excited when we got the news. So. Thanks very much from us. Yeah.
The pleasure is all mine, and you're welcome back anytime. You be well. And Merlin in Canada, she adds, thank you guys, hearing your story and your music. You have a great holiday season as well. She's watching in Canada. Earlier, she also said that she loves, Robert, she loves Merlin in Canada, and Ontario loves moose meat. Finished. We figured we would wrap it there, leave people there. In case they just tuned in now, they're like, what are they talking about? Music and moose meat, huh?
One of these guys.
How'd that come into play, right? You be well, my friends, and come see us again. And truly an honor and a pleasure. And thanks for all the time. And it's good evening for us and good morning for you. Good morning for us. Go get some breakfast. Thanks, gang. Robert and Manuela.
Thank you.
Pleasure. You be well. Cheers now.
Bye now. Bye.
Bye now. What a delight, huh? Really fantastically talented people joining us from Australia. They came from, we're in America, of course, and they're in Australia, in Perth. That's Western Australia, not on the Brisbane side, but the other side, the Western side. And lots of beauty there. And they share it through music and visuals. And that is fantastic. Again, here is the newest single. And also, Robert was mentioning something else that was his pride and joy as well, which you can also get through his website. And that is this. I was very excited about that. And again, not only does he love the violin, the fiddle, and plays it beautifully, he learned early on, by ear, but also has built them and, created them as well. There's a previous one, and just really, he's all about it, And then they are when the CDs arrived and on stage, and there's the whole gang together, which is a great shot too. Lots of beauty in music and in song, and shared with all of us here on the show. We thank Robert and Manuela, who was a bonus special guest joining us here on the program. We really appreciate it. If you guys enjoyed this episode of the Jim Master Show Entertainment Lifestyle Celebrity Talk Show series, well, we encourage you to do something very, very special, and that is give this episode a thumbs up like on our YouTube channel. Click the thumbs up. Share this episode on your social media from our YouTube channel. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. That helps us grow around the world. And also leave a comment. Drop a comment in the comments section below, right down there. Let us know what you enjoyed about the conversation. Who are some guests you'd like to see on the show? And what did you enjoy about this episode of our series? Love having you here, gang. For those that are watching around the world, happy holidays as well. Kathleen, thank you. She enjoyed the show. And Crystal Nolan watching as well. Thank you. She's in Connecticut, USA. Nice. And Merlin in Canada just said she had moose salami. I didn't know there was moose salami. You learn something new every day here on the Jim Master Show. So come back often. Don't forget, you can binge watch our episodes, hundreds of them, on our YouTube channel. And this episode coming at you live right now is going to be archived so you can see it again later on. Thank you, Maureen, as well, and Kathleen in New York City. And cool stuff. We love you all. As I always say, don't forget to love one another, take care of one another, and don't forget to do the very same for yourself. This is your host, Jim Masters, here at Levity Hall and the Broadcast Center for the Jim Masters Show here in the New York area in USA. Take care of one another and take care of yourself. Very important. Happy holidays as well. And I thank you for your time this time. Till next time, come see us again. More great celebrity friends, guests, and entertainment coming up for you right here on the Jim Masters Show. Till the next one, thanks for being with us. We love you all. And cheers.